Alright, what's good YouTube? This is BoxingWave and we are back with another video. I hope everyone had a great weekend. Alright. Let's speak to Demetrius Andrade, man. I'm gonna say a lot in this video. Some of this I already addressed, but this past week there's been a lot more news. Plus, he went on his social media recently on his Instagram and posted a call out of Chris Eubank Jr. Now, if you don't know, Andrade was supposed to be moving up to 168 to fight Zach Parker. He is still currently the WBO champion at 160. All right. He got a shoulder injury and he was out. The fight was postponed. He's still currently the champion at 160. So he never moved up. He never had a fight. The Zach Parker fight didn't go down. Now, his mandatory is JANIBEK and JANIBEK has been winning this fight, right? Including others in the division, but JANIBEK is the mandatory for this belt. He wants to fight for this title, all right? He's been very clear and direct with everyone at 160 at this point, right? Andrade, on the other hand, was supposed to go up to fight Zach, didn't go down. And he has not even really acknowledged a fight with JANIBEK. Okay, JANIBEK was already the mandatory before the Zach Parker fight was even announced. He was shooting for that belt. In the meantime, Andrade has been calling out everybody else in the division pretty much, and he hasn't gotten a call back. You know, we knew he wanted Jamal Charlo. We knew he's been wanting Canelo for years and other fighters, right? With that being said, JANIBEK is still his mandatory. All right, he had a good fight against Liam Williams. Definitely one of the better people on his resume, but still not on a level. He hasn't fought anyone on that super elite level in his career still. All right, I've been covering Andrade on here for a very long time, almost 10 years here. I've been covering his career from 154 all the way up to 160. And it's been a lot of ups and downs, mostly downs, unfortunately, because he just couldn't get the fights done or get the fights made. With that being said, he recently went on social media and called out Chris Eubank Jr. I saw the video. I actually watched it a few times. And he didn't seem like he was sober. You know, he never was the greatest speaker. But you can tell, you know, he was drinking. And he made a video, nothing wrong with drinking, but he was drunk. All right? He couldn't even talk straight. And he's calling out Chris Eubank Jr. And he's basically saying, you know, we're offering you $1 million to fight. You know, why are you trying to make that other fight with Conor Benn? I don't think he said Conor Benn's name, but we know that Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn is working on trying to have a fight at a catch weight at like 156, right? Which is ridiculous in itself, but whatever. You know what I'm saying? That's what Chris Eubank is. Chris Eubank is in the same situation. I'm still waiting for him to get in there with like a top-notch guy at 160. You know, it's been a long time since he's done it at 160. All right, so with all that being said, the timing of it all is kind of ridiculous because there's a lot of people down at 160, and I'm not saying that Andrade hasn't called these people out because I know he has. All right, but Chris Eubank in his public is trying to work out a fight with Conor Benn. Now, I'm not sure if that fight is going to happen. I don't know if it's going to be made. I know there's some issues with the catch weight and the rehydration clause. All right. Conor Benn wants Eubank as drained as possible, which would give him advantage. Obviously, because he's a much smaller guy. I mean, he hasn't fought over 147. So he's going to need some kind of advantage in fighting a much bigger guy, you know. With that being said, this is public information. Andrade knows that this fight is they're trying to work on this fight. Now, I think the only positive thing is if the Conor Benn fight doesn't work out with Chris Eubank Jr., then if Chris Eubank Jr. is interested in fighting Demetrius Andrade, then I guess that fight can happen. But the problem is Andrade is he's using the belt as a tool for the fight to be made. He doesn't understand, well, at least in the video, in the Instagram post that he made, he is not realizing that, yo, if you're going to have Chris Eubank Jr., you can't use that belt. You can't dangle that belt in the air because you won't have that belt. You know? Now, I understand Chris Eubank is probably a better fight for you because Chris Eubank has a bigger name than JANIBEK does. But you won't have that belt if Chris Eubank were to say, all right, well, I'm not doing a Conor Brent fight. We're going to scrap that fight. I'm going to fight Demetrius Andrade, and I'm going to take the $1 million. That belt won't be on the line because JANIBEK will have that belt or be fighting for that vacated belt. You won't have the belt, and you'll be beltless at this point. And it's kind of sad because there's been ups and downs. I've been watching him for a long time. I've been watching him since he was been fighting on ESPN, you know. I think he's had poor management throughout his career. I thought that things would get better when he got with Eddie, you know. Things did not get better with Eddie. All right, Eddie did try to throw some money around, try to get some fighters in there with him, but it just didn't work out. It didn't work out. All right. I was tweeting about this several days ago. I was basically saying, you know, not everybody's going to have the option or the privilege to, you know, duck fighters and still get opportunities later. You know, some fighters got to take whatever opportunity they get. And unfortunately for Andrade, that's basically his whole career. Other fighters can cut corners. Other fighters can do other things and have other options. Andrade is not that fighter. Okay? Andrade has, I feel like even the fights or even some of the contracts that he passed up on in his past is still hurting him today because now we're like almost a whole 10 years later and we're still waiting for a big Andrade fight. All right? He's never fought none of the top 154 fighters outside of Vanes Monterosian, who was a really good fight at that time. All right, but it was a really long time ago. At that time, they were both undefeated. Vanes Monterosian was a good fighter. He was a top guy at 154, and Andrade fought him while they both were undefeated. And it was a very competitive fight. Andrade did get dropped, but he did clearly outscore Vanes Monterosian in that fight. You know, good win. But we never got Charlo fights. We never got the Canelo fight. And I'm not blaming Andrade for all of that, but I'm blaming him for some of it. You know, you didn't take the Showtime deal. You tried to go with Rock Nation. That didn't work out. And plus you got screwed with Showtime, right? So you didn't work out with Rock Nation, but then you turned down the Showtime deal where you could have had fights with guys like Jamel Charlo, maybe Lara in the future, who you've always had a rivalry with. That's another fight that never happened at 154. You got stripped as a WBO champ at 154, you know, and then Canelo went and beat Liam Smith and took your belt without actually fighting you. You know, you didn't fight guys like Austin Trout. You didn't fight J-Rock Williams. You didn't fight any of those guys, all right? You fought Jack Calkay, which was one of your better wins. Probably the most, to this day, still the most competitive fight you've been in your career. You know, a fight that you really struggled in. You had a good win against Willie Nelson. These are solid wins. You know, you go up to 160 and you picked up some wins too. You know, Koleski was a good win. Liam Williams was a good win. You got screwed again in the Saunders thing. And this is what I'm saying. You didn't get to fight Triple G. Saunders, you had the fight was said and done. You guys faced off. You guys had a press conference. Everything was working out. Saunders tested positive, moved up to 168, and the fight never happened. That's another elite fighter that you could have faced that you didn't get the opportunity. That's not your fault. You know, Matt Korobov, maybe that fight, it's another fight you should have took, you know, because again, you don't know when opportunities are going to present itself again. And I think if you were currently holding a guy a belt at 154 with the WBO, if you had won that belt at 160, maybe you would have had more options. I don't know. It sucks because I think Andrade, a lot of it is him being poorly managed. But it also, he has to take some accountability because there were opportunities for you that you just didn't take. And now you're going towards the final stages of your career. And now you have a tough opponent who is your mandatory, who I believe is probably tougher than anybody you fought since you moved up to 160. You know, Liam Williams, at that time, people thought it was a good fight because Liam was a good power puncher and stuff like that. But even in that time, I didn't think you would have too much issues with that guy. You know, I don't think even Koleski, good fighter, but I think Andre has proven that he's above those guys even before those fights were made. But now you're fighting someone that is a lot more dangerous, who boxes better than both of those guys, in my opinion. And he has a lot more power. You know, he's stopping everybody that he's facing. And you don't want to fight that guy, clearly, because it's not that you can't win. It's just that it's high risk, little reward. You don't want to go into a fight like that at this stage without getting that big fight. And I can see the desperation in that Instagram post, because it's like you really want a name. All right. And most of the names do not want to fight you. They don't care to fight you. Canelo, Triple G, Charlo, Jamal Charlo, that is, not Jamel. Jamal Charlo, you know, even Eubank. You know, I don't think any of these guys have ever really been interested in fighting you. So with that being said, you're in a situation that you don't really want to be in. But I can tell you right now, the worst thing that Andre can do right now is vacate that title. Like, it was a mistake to even go up to Zach Parker. But for him to vacate that title now at 160, you really won't have anything. You know, and to be honest, I know JANIBEK don't have the biggest name. But to the boxing fans, they know who he is. And many fans believe that he can beat you. I've never seen people praise an Andrade opponent as much as they're doing with JANIBEK. And it could be hype. If it is hype, prove it. You know, but right now it looks like Andrade really doesn't want to fight this guy. And for obvious reasons. High risk, low reward. And you got to take the fight. Because all these you have no other options. You kind of backed against the wall. And now you got to fight a guy that has potential to be an elite level fighter. I think he's being overhyped a little bit, only because in the sense that people are already saying that he could beat everybody at 160. I see comments like that on a regular basis. And it's not yet proven. Right? So I think for Andrade, it might look like a high-risk fight, but it also could be a great opportunity to shut down someone that could be the next big thing and give him his first L. You can always look at it from that standpoint, but you can also look at it where, like, damn, if I lose to this guy, I didn't even get the big fight, but I'm losing to a guy, he's going to take, you know, he's going to take everything that I work hard for. This is what these fighters are, like, thinking about when they go in the ring these days. Losing that O, you know? So, look, I personally think that Eubank is not going to take the fight, whether or not the Conor Ben fight works out. I don't think Eubank is going to be fighting Demetrius Andrade. I'll be really surprised if he takes that fight. But if he doesn't take the fight, I really believe that Andrade should and probably will fight JANIBEK, because if he vacates the title without a plan, it's like it's gonna make him look really bad. Like, I can't defend him. No one can defend him after that. You know, so that's my views on the whole situation. I hope he takes the JANIBEK fight. I would love to see the Chris Eubank fight too, because I want both of them to finally fight someone that's relevant at 160. So if they fought each other, that would be cool. But then Andrade would have to vacate his title to do that. And I don't know if that's a good thing to do neither. All right. So anyway, let me know what you guys feel, how you guys feel in the comments and everything. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.